I'm not going to sit here and lie and pretend that you can overcome imposter syndrome today, or that it's a quick fix and you can just implement everything in this video and by tomorrow you'll be cured of all of these feelings. Because in reality, it's not that simple and it's a constant work in progress. But what I can promise you is that if you follow all of the advice in this video, you'll be much better equipped at spotting those symptoms in yourself and figuring out what you need to change in order to get rid of those feelings of feeling like an imposter. If you've clicked on this, I'm sure you've already watched many videos on imposter syndrome and I'm sure you already know what it is. So I'm not going to go into too much of the details of this, but just for completeness, the definition, as it says on Google, is imposter syndrome is the persistent inability to believe that one's success is deserved or has been legitimately achieved as a result of one's own efforts or skills. So in simple terms, this comes down to not feeling good enough. And I know this is a feeling that's too common for way too many people out there. Imposter syndrome can show up in many different scenarios, whether that's work situations when you're giving a new task, or maybe when you're working on a project you haven't worked on before. Maybe it's when you're applying for a new job. Maybe it's when you've been offered a new job. Maybe it's in your relationships, in your personal life, or your hobbies and things you're trying to achieve. It can show up in pretty much any situation. The list is endless. But I want to talk specifically about how imposter syndrome affects software engineers and the big prevalence it has within this industry. And even more specific to that, I want to talk about how it affects female software engineers in a very male-dominated industry. So first, let's address the gender subject. The majority of people working within tech are male. And in pretty much any industry, the majority of CEOs, the people at the top, the people with power, the managers are men. I've been on so many teams where I'm the only female, and I think my experience is pretty common in the tech world. And even if you're smart and you know what you're doing and you're very skilled at your job, we can't deny the fact that being either the only female or one of the very few females in your field or in your team doesn't have an impact on your day-to-day job and how you perceive how well you're doing. It can make you feel like you shouldn't be there, or that you're in the wrong place, or you don't fit in. Even if those thoughts are subconscious, we can't deny they have an impact on your work. And this is not to say that men can't experience imposter syndrome too, because they definitely do. Imposter syndrome is not tied to one specific gender, and it is a big thing that's very common across software engineers. So why is it that software engineers experience imposter syndrome very often? Firstly, there are so many concepts to learn about within tech. There are different languages you need to know. There's back-end, there's front-end, there's DevOps, there's infrastructure and architecture and system design, Kubernetes and more specific things. And all of these things are constantly evolving, and there are always new things going, new things cropping up, new things to learn, and there is a lot of them. It is a big minefield of technology and different concepts, and a lot of them can get very complicated very quickly and are pretty much never ending. There are always new things to learn and always things that you won't know. So no wonder it can feel overwhelming at times and often too much to take in. And the other thing I think is that there are some really smart people working in tech or working as software engineers. So when we work in this field, we're constantly surrounded by some really intelligent people. And sometimes this can have an impact on how we view our own work, how we view our own abilities and our own capabilities in this field, and whether we actually have anything meaningful to offer. And all of these feelings can add up and really just add to that imposter syndrome feeling. So what can we do about it? Like I said, it's not a quick, simple fix, and the feelings aren't going to disappear overnight like that. But there are plenty of things we can do, plenty of mindset shifts we can take that will help reduce those thoughts and eventually, hopefully, get rid of those imposter syndrome feelings. Now, a lot of the time, imposter syndrome is based on irrational thoughts. So we need to identify those and then challenge them. So first of all, we're going to identify those thoughts we have about ourselves. Next time you find yourself thinking, maybe I'm not good enough for this, or I'm not smart enough, or they're so much better than me, or I don't deserve this, anything like that where you're putting yourself down, I want you to write it down and really question why you have that thought, where that thought came from. Is it based on real evidence, or is it just that voice at the back of your head that has no rationality behind it? Is it just that voice speaking to you? Then I want you to break that thought down and really challenge it. So I want you to play devil's advocate here and really break it down and try and think of counter arguments against it. So I want you to think of objective evidence that both supports that thought and also invalidates it. So for example, if your thought is, I'm so stupid, I want you to think of all of the things that actually support that, first of all, and then all of the things that go against that and really disprove yourself. So what projects have you completed? What positive feedback have you been given? And you can do this for any thought in any different area of your life. And then having these concrete examples really gives you a lot more confidence because it weakens that first point. It weakens the argument that you are stupid. And creating these counter arguments, as well as weakening that first initial thought or kind of neutralizing it, it also serves as kind of a bank of thoughts that you can always go back to. So next time you have that thought in your mind, you can go back to this written down list that you have. And again, that will just bring about so much more confidence to just get rid of that first initial thought. And now we can start to reframe our thoughts. So we can go back to that first initial thought and, for example, instead of thinking, I'm not good enough, we can think, I have a lot to improve on, a lot to learn, but I've come a long way since the beginning and I've already achieved so much. We often focus on the things we aren't so good at rather than the things we are good at. And we always focus on the things that we lack rather than the things that we do have. This is called the negativity bias. Our brain has an inbuilt bias to focus on all of the negative things. We focus on that one bad thing rather than the mountain of good things. And this is likely a result of evolution. In the past, we would have had to focus on that one threat rather than all the good things going right in order to survive. So focusing on just the bad things to have the better chance of survival means we don't have as much energy to focus on the good things. And today we don't have those same threats as we used to, but we still have that negativity bias in our brains. So even just being aware of this negativity bias, we can help reframe our thoughts and realize that our brain is kind of playing tricks on us, basically. So one of the things that has massively helped me throughout my career is just keeping a document full of all of my achievements. This is something that I can look back on and really realize how far I've come. In the moment, you don't realize how much you've improved. So again, this is going to be something that will take time and will be a constant evolving process. But this document can be so beneficial. Not only is it good for your imposter syndrome, but it's also great for those performance reviews at work, because now you have that document to refer back to. And for yourself, you have that document, you have those facts written down, all of your achievements, so you literally can't argue with yourself. You can't argue with your brain that's telling you you're stupid. You can't argue with that voice at the back of your head because now you have those facts written down. Another negative thought pattern we can get into is what's called black and white thinking. And this is where we frame things in terms of either or statements. So for example, I am stupid or I am clever. But in reality, it's never that clear cut and it's not usually a one or the other type situation. In reality, there's normally somewhere in between. So for example, you thinking, I never know what I'm doing, I'm always clueless, but they always know what they're doing and they always understand things and my colleague always gets things first time round. The reality is that you probably do sometimes know what you're doing and they probably do sometimes not know what they're doing. And once you realize this, you can start to reframe that black and white thinking. You can acknowledge that you do have further to go and more to learn, But that doesn't mean you're stupid, and that doesn't mean you don't know anything, and it doesn't mean you're never going to understand it. You can acknowledge that you're skilled, but still have more to learn, and both of these things can be true at the same time. Instead of being down about yourself about how much you don't know, focus on the positive side of it and the things you do want to learn. And that doesn't take away from your current skills or your ability to be able to get there one day. Now let's talk about remote working. Working in tech and even just working in this post-COVID era, it's pretty likely that you will either work from home full-time or part-time at the moment, or you will do at some point in your life. While there are so many benefits to working from home and working remotely, it can also amplify those feelings of imposter syndrome, especially because it can change how we view feedback, how we receive feedback, and those feelings of loneliness may amplify it even further. I personally struggled with imposter syndrome so much during my early career. So it was post-COVID, we were told to work from home, and I was very junior and really needed that support. That support wasn't always available or wasn't always best able to be given to me while I was working from home, and feelings of imposter syndrome were definitely real. And if you're already feeling stuck or already feeling unsure about certain things, it's so much harder to ask for help when you're working from home. For example, if you're in the office, you can just chat with someone over a coffee break, lean over someone's screen, chat to the person next to you, or just an interaction where you bump into them at the printer or something like that. Working from home is so much more difficult because you have to arrange a call, you have to set up a meeting. All of these things kind of feel like barriers that get in the way of you getting help, essentially. And it's made even harder by the fact that you can't see how other people are coping. You can't see what they're doing with their day-to-day lives. And you're in this isolated space of your own home. Sometimes you can end up interpreting silence as negative feedback about your own performance or anything else. And sometimes you can end up feeling like a burden. Or maybe it's the other side of it where you don't realize that other people are lost as well. Other people need help on things or don't know what they're doing, but everyone is kind of in their own contained space, not having a clue what anyone else is thinking. So the main thing I would suggest when working from home is really communicating with everyone in your team, with your manager, and with anyone you can at your work. Communication is key. Try and build relationships with your colleagues, have one-to-ones with your manager. Make sure you ask for feedback. Maybe make sure you pair with people on a regular basis. Maybe make sure you have just friendly catch-ups here and there. This can all have such a big impact on your relationships with colleagues, how you communicate with each other, and this then trickles down to how you feel about your own performance within your team. We can often make assumptions about what our colleagues are thinking about us, but there's no way of actually knowing this because we can't mind read. So we need to ask for that feedback and build up a better relationship with them. This is so that we don't end up internalizing what we think others are thinking about us rather than what they're actually thinking about us. Something else that often comes with working from home is burnout. Many people working from home often feel this need to overcompensate for everything. Maybe they feel guilty when they take a quick coffee break or when they need a bit of fresh air. But in reality, when you're working in the office, you also get the chance to switch off and have those interactions with people around you. Working from home, maybe you're feeling guilty if your status on Teams switches to away for 10 minutes. People are scared of being perceived as being lazy when working from home or not contributing enough to the team, when actually you can end up working a lot longer hours when working from home if you don't set those boundaries for yourself. This pressure that you put on yourself can lead to burnout and can then add to those feelings of inadequacy, which can also then lead to imposter syndrome as well. So for this, I want you to be intentional about setting those breaks for yourself, making sure you're taking regular breaks and trying not to burn yourself out here. Linking back to my previous point about mind reading, it's actually easy a lot of the time to imagine that everyone else knows what they're doing and you're the only person that doesn't. People can come across as if they know everything and if they're super confident and they know what they're doing all the time. But really, they're never going to tell you all of the things they don't know. They're just going to talk about the things that they do know. And they could actually be feeling the exact same way as you are. It's impossible that everyone knows everything or that anyone knows everything. Especially within tech, there's always new things to learn and always new unexpected things cropping up. So it's literally impossible to know everything. And also, no one expects you to know everything, not even your managers, not even the people at the top. And once you understand this, it relieves so much pressure from yourself. It's a relief knowing that you have time to figure things out and time to grow, and you're not the final version of yourself right now, and you're not the most advanced you'll be in your career right now. There's always more to improve on and always room to grow. I remember in that one of my previous interviews for a job, I was asked a Java specific question and I didn't know how to answer it. And I was just honest and said I didn't know. The interviewer told me that he was fine with that and it didn't matter that I didn't know because in real life, I'd just be able to Google the answer. He didn't have to tell me that, but that gave me so much relief in that moment. And that message has carried through with me until now because, again, you do not need to know everything right now. You have time to keep learning, keep improving, keep growing, and this growth mindset will get you so much further in your career and will make you way more resilient to those imposter syndrome feelings. One of the best things I think you can do for your confidence is proving to yourself that you can do hard things. Take on those challenges and push yourself out of your comfort zone to show yourself that you are capable of doing them. And pushing yourself doesn't mean diving headfirst into the world's most challenging problems that are clearly impossible. For example, if you've never written a line of code before, you're not suddenly going to be able to write a full stack application from scratch. But you can begin by taking on small challenges that are just outside of your comfort zone each time. Maybe you want to take the lead on a project at work, or maybe you want to start a new side project that's learning a new skill that you haven't touched before. Or maybe there's something similar in one of your hobbies or one of your side hustles. We're constantly reaching for something that's a little bit better than before and a little bit further out of your comfort zone than the last time. And through this repeated exposure of these hard things, this will help build your self-confidence, build your resilience, and again, just prove to yourself that you are way more capable than you think you are. Once you complete these things and have work to show for it, you have no reason to feel like an imposter. We've all heard the saying, comparison is the thief of joy, but there's so much truth to it. It's natural to compare yourself to others, and there are some scenarios where a little bit of comparison can be good. But remember that everyone's journey and everyone's timeline is so different. Measuring your progress against others can easily take away our own achievements and our own personal little wins. Instead, try and view others' accomplishments as inspiration rather than a benchmark for your own success. Let that achievement show you what's possible rather than let it defining where you should be. Everyone is on their own timeline and everyone has their own unique journey. There's no point you comparing your stage 0 against someone else's stage 10. And for example, if you're, say, a junior software engineer, you can't be comparing yourself to the senior software engineers in your team who have had years more experience than you. And even if on paper they're the exact same level as you still don't know their past experiences. You don't know what they've done in the past, what's led to where they are now. All we know is that it will be different. So there's no way that you can compare the two. But also, what looks like success for you is different to what success looks like for me, which is different to what success looks like for my best friend, for my colleague, for my neighbour, for my uncle, for any random stranger on the internet. And that's okay. So comparison almost always does more harm than it does good. And my last point, I want you to remember that you are meant to be there. You are meant to be in this role. You are meant to be in this situation. You are meant to be where you are right now at this current time in this stage of your life. When imposter syndrome kicks in, just remember that you got this role for a reason, or the next role that's going to come for you is coming for you because it's meant for you. Your skills and your experience and everything you've done has got you where you are today. Trust the process, trust the hiring process, trust the process of life, and trust the confidence that others have placed in you so far. Each challenge that you overcome is just more proof that you're meant to be where you are and you have no reasons to feel this imposter syndrome. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got something from it. And if you did, please give it a like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments any other tips you have for getting over imposter syndrome. And comment down below what video you'd like to see next.